Welcome to the Customer Experience podcast series, which supplements the global best-selling book, Customer Experience.
Hi, good afternoon. Thanks for joining the podcast, Janelle. Would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, thanks, Aim. My name is Janelle Mansfield, and I'm the founder of Amplified Customer Experience. I'm a CX evangelist, and I work as a consultant with mid-sized businesses to help them amplify their customer experiences. I proudly live and work in the Canadian prairies, and I've spent the last 20 years or so building my career by working in a variety of functional areas. And I've kind of always been that person that's had a focus and a mind on the customer. And so in the last year, I decided to take my passion for customers and the strategic nature of customer experience and launch my business, which I mentioned is a small consultancy that focused on helping mid-sized businesses.
Do you know what? I really love your name, Amplified Customer Experience. Can you just tell me where that came from?
So I'm always the person that's kind of looking at things with like the glass half full perspective. And, one of the things that what I was thinking about when I started the business was I really wanted to celebrate customer experience. And I didn't want to, as much as possible, I didn't want to come at it kind of from the negative. So always seeing things as an opportunity. And how I see customer experience is I see customer experience as a way to create a sustainable competitive advantage and to just really amplify or grow companies' business results. And so I just wanted to build that right into the name.
I like that. I really like that. And, your CV is very impressive. You work with some really good clients, got some really good outcomes. What are the fundamental things you think need to be in place for a good CX strategy or a good CX project for you?
Well, so I actually wanted to just talk about how important it is to have a CX strategy in place because so many companies that I've interacted with or spoken with or, followed, they're missing that strategic component. So really CX, it is something that is designed and is manufactured. And the only way you can do that is by creating a strategy. And so they need to be thoughtfully created, thoughtfully defined, planned, and well executed. So I liken it to like without a strategy, it's a little bit of like putting on a blindfold and trying to, you spin around 3 times and you try to hit the pinata. You might eventually get there. You might kind of, tap it. You might not get a great hit. So you can kind of do CX without a CX strategy, but it's not going to be as successful if you don't have a strong CX strategy put in place. So to create a solid CX strategy, companies really need to have a customer mindset with the ability to truly understand their customers, what they like, what they hate. Yeah. And beyond that, companies that want to be successful in CX and with CX strategies, they have to be open to innovating. If we look at the successful companies that are like doing really well in the CX space, they're innovating. They're not afraid to try new things. So I love that. Yeah,
I like that. And I think I used this expression before. I think it's Lewis Carroll said, when there's no destination, then any road's going to get you there, right? If you've got plans of where to go. And you talk, I think there's 3 things in there you talked about in terms of what that would be, what a good CX strategy would be. Do you want to just amplify on that as well, please, for me?
Absolutely. So I actually have created, I don't know if you're familiar with what's called the business model canvas, but if you're not, I suggest Googling it. Essentially, it's a 1-page template that allows businesses to put their entire business model on a page. And it tackles things that are kind of cross-functional and not specifically focused on the customer. But so what I did to help businesses really wrap their head around this concept of CX strategy or what's a good CX strategy is I created the CX strategy canvas, which is kind of similar in concept. It's all on 1 page. But what it does is it explores the customer personas and, specifically the behaviors and actions or the demographics and psychographics, looks at the needs and the pain points, as well as creating a bit of, a name and a sketch of who that customer is. And it also looks at the strategy and tactics. So your brand alignment, how do you want to tackle some of the key aspects of an experience, such as personalization or responsiveness, adaptability, things like that. And then it summarizes it or rolls it all up into a target experience statement. So just something really crisp that you can then use to roll out and communicate with your teams.
Okay, I like that, because sometimes people get so lost in creating that perfect vision or strategy or set of words that it doesn't make sense. And if you can get it really simple that everybody can understand, then I think that can be a lot more powerful, maybe.
Right. And the idea with like Onepagers is something that, everybody can kind of print out and they can have handy. Actually, when I was preparing for this chapter that I wrote, I did an interview with Dow. And what they did is how they communicated their strategy was, instead of using words on a Onepager, they hired a graphic artist who drew it out. And they were then able to, when they rolled it out, they actually were able to modify how they presented it. So they never had to modify the Onepager, but they just talked about it differently when they were speaking with different functional areas or different levels of seniority or maturity. And they found that that was really helpful. And then everybody had that visual representation that they could then look at to remind themselves about what that strategy was or what the target experience was.
Okay, no, that's really good. That's really good. And then if we go on to your chapter, because you wrote a really interesting chapter in the book, can you tell us, what would be the one or two key takeaways that the reader's going to get from that chapter? And let's just make it a teaser so they actually go and read your chapter as well.
Okay, so my chapter assumes that you already have a CX strategy defined. My chapter isn't talking about how to create a CX strategy. What it's really talking about is how to increase your chances of success, because more than half of strategies, they fail when they come to the execution phase. So I'm trying to help companies and leaders better understand how to increase their success rate on the execution side of their strategy. So what I do in that chapter is I talk about using non-standard approaches to communicating and rolling out that strategy. So many times you'll see or you'll hear stories of companies trying to roll out their corporate strategy or any type of strategy, CX or corporate, just through one email. Or maybe they'll send an email and they'll do a town hall, and it's really generic and it's not targeted or anything. And it's just a very traditional approach to communication. And it's become very clear that those approaches are no longer working, that our employees or our team members, they need communications that are not only tailored, but that are immersive, that help them really put themselves in the shoes of the customer or in the shoes of what their role is in the execution of that strategy. So my chapter talks about how to use non-standard or creative immersive learning to improve your odds of success when executing. And then I have about 3 or 4 different examples of some companies that have used some really non-traditional approaches and gotten really good success out of it.
Yeah, your examples are really good. And it, in a way, when I read your examples, and I don't want to tease them out because I would like people to read the chapter, but you sort of looked at some of those examples and thought, if these guys needed this kind of advice, then yeah, there's got to be more, something more to it. It's not so easy to get this part right, and, you use the word immersive a few times. People use that term a lot, in terms of immersing themselves in something. Do you want to give a little bit of a statement on that, please, on what you mean by that?
So what I mean by immersive is giving your employees, your stakeholders, your team members a chance to put themselves in the shoes of what you're trying to teach them. So I'll give an example. So if you're working on a journey mapping project and you have, a group of people coming together from across your organization, they don't really understand what journey mapping is. Why not use an immersive learning technique to help them really connect personally with the concept of journey mapping? So I do these challenges where I'll ask participants in advance to journey map an experience that they do regularly.
Right.
So that way they can connect with it personally. It makes it a little bit more tangible and less abstract. And I also find it means that you can spend less time on the theoretical and more time just diving right in and getting used to using those tools and techniques. And it's been very successful, at least with the clients that I've used it with.
Okay, so I think also there's you're doing yourself a little bit of injustice maybe, because there is a bit of magic that you bring to it as well. You know, from speaking to you, that bit of experience that you have up there, which you bring to it, is amazing. The immersive example, it's really important, and the way I tend to try to describe it to people, it's like going and sitting on the side of the pool and putting one foot in or jumping right in. You don't really enjoy the water until you throw yourself in. And I think, you know, like you said, the example of throwing yourself into the role of your customer, it's really good. It's really relevant. Janelle, you're sitting out in Canada, in the prairies. What's the big mission? What's the big goal when your career finishes in 30, 40, 50 years time, and you look back? What are the big goals and missions that you think you'd like to have achieved?
So right now, what I'm focused on is being located in the prairies, the heart of the prairies. I would love to be known as one of those people that really helped businesses in the prairies not only learn about and understand what CX is, but to establish those programs and to build strategies that have allowed them to create sustainable competitive advantages. We kind of in the prairies, we know that we often kind of wait to see something. We want to see it's been proven in other geographies before we'll start to tackle it. And I feel so strongly that CX is so important that there isn't time to wait. So I don't want it to like take that natural, 7 to 10 years of lag time for it to become really fully integrated in our businesses here. And so I just want to help accelerate that and help businesses really see why an investment in CX is just, it's not optional. It's something that they absolutely need to do, and they need to do it now.
Yeah, and it's definitely an investment, not an overhead. I mean, some people I speak to, they're saying, "Oh, we just can't afford that now," and you're trying to say to them, "Look, it's not an overhead; it's an investment. It will pay back."
Yeah, for those people, I'd like to ask them. So, ask them a series of questions. So, well, what would happen if you didn't invest? What would happen if your competitor instead invested in creating a unique customer experience? What would that look like? How would that impact your business? And I can see that happening. If you just look at startups, for example, startups for the most part are actually experience. Their differentiator is the experience. That's why they're starting up. They might not realize it. They might not have a CX strategy, but Netflix wasn't a technology disruptor. It was an experience disruptor.
Yeah.
Uber, same thing, experience disruptors. All of these startups are really, they're iterating and challenging the status quo on the experience side of things. So.
Yeah, and I think you said something really important there. For me, at its heart, a lot of the stuff that's happened in terms of even the internet, it was the horrible experience of going to the library, asking the librarian to find you a book, getting it off the shelf, downloading the data, writing it out. The experience of going on the internet massively changed that. And I think you're absolutely right. We don't realize this, but experience is so much at the heart of everything we do. Janelle, we could talk for ages, but we've got to close. If people have liked what they heard, and I'm sure they would, and they want to contact Janelle, find out a bit more about you, what's the best place to contact you?
You can look for me on YouTube or LinkedIn, or even just finding me on my website. It's under Amplified Customer Experience or amplifiedcx.com. I've got some great resources both on YouTube and on my website for those who are just starting their CX journeys, or maybe those who are looking to take their programs to the next level.
There's some real good depth of experience with Janelle, and I'm not just saying that because she's on the video with me. There's a lot of stuff out there, and if you go and look at her resources, if you look at her YouTube channel, you'll see a lot of interviews and a lot of collateral out there. There's definitely worth checking her out. The last thing I must say, we're coming to the end of 2019, end of a decade, end of a year. What are you excited about next year?
Oh, there's so many things. In terms of the CX space, I'm really excited to see, over the next probably 18 to 24 months, more and more how the mid-sized companies are able to bridge CX strategy with technology to really take them to the next level. I started my career in tech. So I have a bit of a soft spot for it in enabling businesses to achieve their business outcomes. So I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens in that space. From a mid-sized business perspective, I know a lot of those large corporations, they're already on the customer experience management platforms. They're doing speech analytics or, video analytics, they're doing all sorts of things. But for mid-sized businesses to be able to really take advantage of that, I'm really excited to see what's going to happen there.
Yeah, fantastic. I think you're absolutely right. I think we're going to see so many more of those guys and girls pop up and really challenge the big brands. Janelle, thank you very much for your time today. Really appreciate it. Look forward to seeing what happens with amplified customer experience in the next decade.
Thanks so much, Naeem. I appreciate you inviting me to participate on the podcast.
Thanks. Bye-bye.